I'm pretty sure that every leather crafter ever has at some point found ourselves asking the question, do I need a leather sewing machine? Do I need an industrial sewing machine to be good at leathercraft, to get into leathercraft, to create the things that I want to create? And this is a question that I've definitely been asking myself over the last few years of my leathercraft journey. And now as I begin to make things for other people, as I begin to sell products, as I begin to build my brand and my company, I find myself asking this more and more. And in fact, recently decided to actually bite the bullet and buy myself an industrial sewing machine. And what I wanted to discuss with you today is kind of the background behind that decision, the reasons why I decided to buy a sewing machine, the reasons why I held off for so long, and why I think some people should hold off and why you don't necessarily need a sewing machine. And I'm hoping that by listening to my story, you're going to be able to perhaps decide for yourself whether this type of sewing machine is going to be right for you. Now, before I get into it, this is not a typical 3 reasons to buy a sewing machine, 3 reasons not to type YouTube video. This is just a discussion. Imagine we're in a coffee shop or a bar on a hot summer's day having a pint of lager. Really, I'm just giving you my thoughts. It's not going to be that organized, but it's going to be genuine and you're going to understand how I came to this conclusion. This is a big investment for a lot of people, and it's also a limiting factor for a lot of people. It's something that I think it's in everybody's mind, whether you need a sewing machine to be able to leathercraft like the pros. And I think it's important to just be honest about everything when it comes to this topic. And on that note, I have zero affiliation with Texo or any other sewing machine supplier. I bought this with my own money, every single penny, painful penny of it. It's a big decision, and I didn't take it lightly. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. I did just get this last week, so what I'm going to show you on screen is kind of the unboxing, first setup, and then first test product with this sewing machine, so you can actually see the type of results, the quality of the result you can expect kind of on day one. No training, no practice, just to see. So that's what you're going to see. If you're not interested in that, just feel free to listen along, put this in the background. If you do want to see that and you don't want to listen to me, then put some music on. I don't know, whatever you want, but this is going to be an unboxing / first impressions / should you or should you not buy a sewing machine. So first of all, let's just start by talking about kind of the overarching main factors that I think come into play when you're making this type of decision. And the obvious one is price. It's going to be an investment. You can get industrial machines, used older machines, the Juki 562s, 563s. You can get the old, you can find Adlers lying around. It really depends how much you want to play with those, because I did look into it and I was just heavily aware of the fact that you're probably going to have to be upgrading the servos and doing quite a bit of work on them to get them running. And I think that's okay if you have experience with sewing machines, so you can kind of know what to look for. But as my first machine, I sort of just decided against that because I wanted something that was just going to work from the start. So really, if you're buying a new machine, you're looking at thousands of dollars, whatever you get, to be honest, if you're trying to get something that's going to be good enough to make leather products beyond simple garment leather. If you're using garment leather, I've shown before on this channel that you can use just a normal home machine. You can buy something like a Singer Heavy Duty for like $200-300. I recently made a jacket with 18-ounce canvas. It can go through 4 layers of that stuff, so it's pretty impressive what you can do with home machines. But as soon as you start getting into using veg tan leathers, you have to upgrade to that industrial category. I'm not going to go through like every supplier that you can get. There's so many. It depends where you are in the world as to what you kind of have available to you. If you're in the US, you've got your Weaver, your Leather Machine Co., Cowboy. Like, you've got a few options. Most of them are kind of along the same lines. They're clones of Jukis or Adlers or whatever it is that they're based off of. Here in Canada, you're pretty much limited to Texo. Anyway, that's a sidetrack, and that's probably a whole video if you wanted that to be. But the point I was making is these things are expensive. They are thousands of dollars. The one that I bought is the 2750 Pro with pedestal, which is kind of, it's up there in prices. You're really spending a lot to get that full package. And that can just be prohibitive for a lot of people, especially if you're making a handful of goods. think about how many wallets you have to make back, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's a lot. And, you know, secondary to that, but in fact for me actually the main reason that I held off for so long is space. The package, it ends up being a pretty decent sized piece of kit, which is perfectly fine if you have a workshop, a garage, an outdoor studio, but I'm in a 1-bedroom condo where I'm pushing my luck as it is with how much space I'm able to use. I still don't know where I'm going to store mine, to be honest. As you'll see in this video, it's currently just sat in the living room, which is really not ideal. And the last one really is another big reason why I held off for so many years, is the quality of the result and how a sewing machine compares to hand stitching. And there's kind of a couple of factors to this. One being that hand stitching, if you know what you're doing, is a superior method of stitching. With a decent amount of practice and the right irons and the right thread, you can just get a superior looking result. You can get a much higher quality result, much more durable result, because saddle stitching is inherently a stronger stitch than a machine stitch. So there's an argument that if you're making fine goods, that hand stitching is not only cheaper, but it's actually a superior alternative, even though it takes a little bit longer to do. There are instances where even with a sewing machine, I'm still going to hand stitch. Stitching something, you know, a small wallet or whatever it is that just needs a single row of stitching, the time difference isn't really going to be substantial and you're going to get a better result. But the other element to this is if you're not hugely experienced with hand stitching, it's like anything. I think you always want to start with the basic. If you're starting in the gym, you don't go on TikTok and start following the random shitty exercises that people are making up on the spot to try and get views. You go in, you learn how to squat, you learn how to bench, you learn how to deadlift, bicep curl, the basics that everybody needs. I love how bicep curl made it. Learning how to and understanding hand stitching, understanding the different types of pricking irons you can get. You know, the difference between typical diamond irons versus French irons versus hole punch, stitching punches. You know, understanding how each of those looks and how that can affect the overall appeal of the stitching that you're creating, how different threads can work to create different looks. I would always argue it's important to learn those things and to master those basics and those fundamentals so that you can understand what, quote unquote, the perfect stitch looks like, what it should look like. Because I've seen a surprising amount of leather goods coming from handmade suppliers that, you know, they're marketed as the best possible quality handmade goods, but the quality of the machine stitching, you're seeing there's tension issues with the sewing machine. You can see that they're rushing. The thread distance they're using is not necessarily suitable for the product that they're making. These are all things that I feel like, yes, you can fine tune with a machine, but if you understand before that what really good stitching looks like, it sort of sets the bar higher for when you then do transition to a machine, you know? Maybe that's just me being a perfectionist and not everyone's going to agree with that, but that's a reason I think if you're just starting out, I certainly don't know that you should be starting off with a machine. And in fact, that's a good transition into kind of my next part, I guess. You know, I've just talked about the reasons why perhaps you don't want to go straight to buying a sewing machine. So let's talk about reasons why I did buy it and what changed between, you know, me starting a few years ago. And in fact, when you first start, you're looking at sewing machines when you start because you see other makers using them. You know, you go online, you watch people making these awesome goods and they're using sewing machines and it's coming out with this perfect stitch. And you're thinking, wow, okay, I need that machine to do what they're doing. And I think that's your interest in sewing machines kind of takes this weird negative bell curve where to begin with, you're like, I need it, but I can't afford it or I can't justify it because, you know, I don't even know if I'm going to like this hobby. So you kind of wait. You buy some cheap pricking irons on Amazon. You're like, okay, I can do this. You upgrade to some better irons. You're like, oh, this is actually really nice. I can get something with this, you know? And you keep using that for a while and you're like, okay, I really like hand stitching. And then there comes a point, which is where I find myself at recently, where you either need to make more products because you're selling enough of them, or you just want to make more complicated products. You want to make bigger products, something like you want to make belts, bags, whatever it is. And you're like, I I can't take the time to hand stitch, it takes too long. So then you start looking at sewing machines again. If you watch my last video, I made a handmade, hand-tooled belt, double layer, veg tan belt, basket weave pattern, typical Western style. Hand stitching that thing took me, I don't even want to say, but probably anywhere from 4 to 6 or maybe even more hours, just because you're dealing with so much thread. You know, you're passing all this thread through every single hole, and it's exhausting, it's boring, and you cannot sell products like that. You're never gonna make money if you're spending 6 hours stitching a $200 belt. So I've been holding off on making that camera bag that I've been wanting to make. I've been holding off on making my fiance bags and, you know, handbags and things like that she wants to make, even though I have made some in the past. Just simple things like stitched camera straps. I just want to see, you know, how it's going to look with a nice stitch down the side. Like little things like that I've just not done because it just takes way too long to hand stitch things. And that's really where sewing machines come into their own. I mean, that's their benefit. If there's any benefit at all to a sewing machine, it's time. That's it. It's not that it's better. It's not that it's cheaper. It's not that it takes up less space. Definitely not. These are all drawbacks, in my opinion. Those are 3 reasons not to use one. The only reason, in my opinion, to use a sewing machine is that it's faster. So how does this relate to you and your leather crafting journey? I mean, I'm not here to tell you because I don't know what your story is, what your journey is, what you're making, but I think some things to consider. What are you making? Are you making really small goods? You know, something to be aware of is that there's certain things that you can switch out. Instances where typically something would be sewn, look to see whether you can use rivets instead. That's a really big feature of, you know, probably one of my best viewed videos and definitely my most downloaded pattern is the mountain wallet, which people love it because you don't have to sew anything. You just cut out the shape. It's one piece of leather. It's a single piece of leather. Cut out the shape, you put 2 rivets, and you're done. So sometimes smart design can get over the need for sewing entirely. But if your goal is to make duffel bags, then, you know, good luck doing that by hand. You can, but it depends how many you want to make. You know, do you want to make 1 a week if that's your full time on this? It's really down to the volume and what it is that you're creating as to whether this is a worthwhile investment for you. Another thing to consider is your experience level. Are you just starting out? Don't buy a machine. I don't care what you're making. I don't think spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a machine when you've never even made anything is a good idea. You have to try first. Go on Amazon, or go on Tandy, actually is better than Amazon, and just buy like a basic leatherworking starter kit. It's all you need to start with leather crafting. The reason I love this hobby so much, and the reason I teach it, or at least show you what I'm doing on YouTube, is because I just think it's such an accessible hobby, and it's so versatile, and it's such an incredible skill to have. And all you really need are like the most basic tools. So to summarize everything, I hope I don't miss anything here because I didn't write any of this down as I went, but you know, reasons to perhaps hold off are going to be the price, the size, and the fact that I think you should learn how to hand stitch before you decide to invest in such a large piece of equipment. If you are going to buy one, you're buying it, in my opinion, just because of time. You want to save time. You need to make more products, or you don't have time to make the larger products that you want to make. And that decision just comes down to what you're making, who you're making it for, and how many of them you're making. So I hope that those thoughts, that my kind of input on this matter help a little bit. I wanted this to be an unfiltered, unguided almost, which is probably not a good thing, but just a dump of my thoughts and a true, genuine story, because maybe you can find one, but certainly the channels I've been watching, I am yet to see a single video about a sewing machine that wasn't gifted to that creator, or they have an affiliate program with that creator, or like some kind of connection. I've never seen it. So I'm not saying this is the first one, but I'm saying it's one of probably few where I'm just giving you my genuine thoughts. And I hope that you can appreciate that, and I hope that it's been useful. If you have any questions at all about this machine or about this video or about your own journey, feel free to send me a message on Instagram, drop a comment below, and I'll try and get back to you. I don't always respond to everyone because I'm just bad at doing that. And I do get quite a few comments and messages, so I do sometimes miss them. And so feel free to follow up with me if I don't get back to you. And more importantly, if you have anything you want to see next, if you have any particular projects you want me to make, if you have any particular pieces of equipment you want me to try out, let me know. I really do genuinely want to hear. I'm not saying that for comments. I want more so for you to get involved in the channel, and I want to see and I want to hear what you want to see. So comment below anything that you think is missing from the YouTube sphere, or you're not satisfied with how other creators are doing it. I've noticed this sort of thing where a lot of leather crafters, they make the same thing the same way, and there's not always just one way to do things. And if you feel like something is there that you want to create, but you're limited by the equipment that you have, then I can guarantee you there's another way to make it. With all that said, I think I have spoken like way too much in this video. I've probably bored you to death. Once I do start talking, it's kind of hard to get me to stop. So I hope this hasn't been too long of a video for you. I hope it's been useful. I hope it's been inspiring, or at least somewhat informative. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.